Welcome, everybody, to the Intersect USA podcast show where we celebrate all things faith, art, and community. My name is Ben Nizer. I'm an evangelical Christian, and I am joined today by my friend
Isaac Barahona, and I don't identify particularly with a specific religion, but I love studying world religions, and I have a strong interest in Buddhist and Taoist philosophies. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit more about that, Isaac. Just tell us about your journey of faith, kind of where it's led to some of these interests that you have
Okay.
in the Eastern religions.
So, I guess I was raised LDS, and I haven't had my records removed, so technically I'm still LDS, but not an active member. I being raised, my parents were very accepting, very loving of just people in general.
Yeah.
I think I owe a lot to just the way I was raised, to how my parents see the world, how they see people. I started to fall away from the LDS church when I was in junior high school age, which it was a lot of just like resentment and I think just some troubles that I was going through school, and I guess I got interested in more Eastern philosophies in high school. I would go over to the Krishna temple in Spanish Fork, and I fell in love with like the music and the art and some of their philosophies, and that kind of led me to get into some other areas. I guess I started to listen to a lot of like Ram Dass and Alan Watts, who's a Taoist. He's one of the like psychonauts from the 60s who started studying psychedelics, and he studied mostly Taoism, but Buddhism, Taoism, a lot of the Eastern philosophies, which I just really gravitated to that way of thinking, that philosophy, which I think you can get into it a lot, and there's a lot of fluff, I guess, a lot of philosophy, but you can be a Buddhist and still be Christian. It doesn't really matter. Buddhism isn't, I guess, it's not disclusive. Well, I don't know. It doesn't disclude. Exclusive. Yeah. It's
a very inclusive.
Yeah, very inclusive way of thinking. Yeah. More philosophy than it is
Yeah.
a religion. So, yeah.
Okay. And you're also a barber.
I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
I cut hair.
And I know that's a part of you.
Yeah.
You know, like you enjoy that, and I'm always interested and intrigued by what people do and how that ties into their philosophy, their worldview, their faith, that kind of thing. Does your worldview at all inform like why or how you do what you do there in that area,
in that community?
Yeah,
that's an interesting question. Yeah, I guess I feel like as a barber, I see so many people every day, and I get to hear a lot of other people's perspectives and opinions, and I feel like the barber shop is a very open space. Like there's not really a lot of judgment. It's kind of a melting pot for the whole community. It doesn't matter who you are, what you believe. It's very safe space. What's said in the barbershop stays in the barbershop, and so, and also I feel like in that line of work, I am kind of a low-key therapist for people. Like they share a lot of their problems, and I'm not an expert in like psychotherapy or any. I don't claim to be an expert in anything really, except for just cutting hair. That's what I specialize in. But I feel like I like to be able to help people with their problems. And I think that I found a lot of times some struggles that people have with like just regular life anxieties, breakups, things that they go through. I feel like I've been able to like have good conversations and be able to make really good realizations along with my clients and learn a lot from them. And I feel like, I don't know. It's always an interesting environment. I love the kinds of conversations that come up in the shop. Yeah.
Do you naturally share some of your philosophies, some of the things that you learn, your worldview? I mean, because usually if someone has a worldview, it just comes out. Like it comes out naturally.
It's a lot easier to share. It's very like you kind of just read the room. You kind of see what your client needs to hear a lot of the time, and I don't want to ever act like I know what's best or anything. And I think that if I have a piece of advice that would be helpful to a client, then I try and share it. And I want to, I always try and make sure that my client's comfortable and that he feels appreciated and that he feels validated, whatever's going on. And so, I think it's interesting because I love religious philosophy. I love like spiritual philosophy, and getting into like Buddhism and Taoism, like some of the teachings that I've studied, some of the stuff that I have found. It's like sometimes it's super easy just to let it all out. It's like super natural just to express how I feel. And then other times I don't have anything to say at all. I just like, there's nothing to be said. And, I don't know. It's interesting. A lot of that style of philosophy is contradictive. I think that it does that on purpose to get you to a point where like all these contradicting rules or like ways of thinking about life, it just kind of gets you to a point where there's all this philosophy that you're taking in and you just drop it all. You just surrender and let go of everything. All of the complicated philosophies that you're like sifting through and like being taught or teaching yourself. Like the whole point of those philosophies is just to get you to a point where you let go of all of it and you don't need it anymore. You don't worry about it because you realize that you're just here in this moment. You're just here to be here, enjoying this moment. And that's, I don't know. It's interesting. I feel like it really does get you to a point where you just surrender and you just trust in yourself, trust in the universe, I guess. Just whatever happens for some reason, and that that all you can do is your best with what you know, what you have. That's literally all you can do is just the best with what you know, and just to be able to enjoy the moment, because this moment right now, each moment that passes by is infinitely rich, and that is really all you need right now. It's enough. And that's,
I find something to be pretty consistent no matter what worldview you hold, which is if asked to explain your worldview to someone else, the things that you use to explain it, in a 3 to 4 minute thing like you just did right there, usually there's an element of like, what was the sticking point for you? Like what for you when it came to some of the Eastern philosophies, Buddhism, Taoism, was like, that's it. Like that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm searching for. Like that's the answer.
That's that goodie.
Like, what was that thing, right? That was like, this is it.
That would be just to appreciate the moment. Just to appreciate the moment as it is, no matter what you're going through, how you how it affects you emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
physically, just to take it as it is. And
Yeah.
I don't know, look at life very simply. I guess
Mm-hmm.
actually, there's a, if I could tell a story,
Sure. I'm down for a story.
there's a story in Taoist philosophy. It's kind of a, it's the way of thinking of like maybe so, like maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing.
Okay.
There's like the two parallels, and in the story, so there's a farmer who has a beautiful life. He takes care of his farm, has a beautiful family, and really enjoys his life. And he has this mentality of like maybe so. So he is working on the farm, and his son accidentally leaves open the gate, and so his only horse escapes,
Mm-hmm.
runs away, and then all of the rest of the community is like, "Oh, that's so sad. I'm sorry you lost your only horse." And he's like, "Maybe so. Like, it could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. Who am I to judge? Who am I to really like? There's so many things to weigh out. Maybe so. I'm not going to stress about it."
Mm-hmm.
Later, this horse comes back with a bunch of wild horses, and he's able to capture all these wild horses. And like, wow, this is awesome. You got all these horses in your farm. And it's like, maybe so. Like, maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. While they're breaking the horses, his son falls off one of the wild horses and breaks his leg. And they're like, oh, this is awful. I'm sorry that your son's broke his leg. Like, he can't work for you. He's going to be out for a while. And it's like, maybe so. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's bad. And then not too soon after, army recruiters come, and they're, recruiting soldiers, and they don't take his son because he's got a broken leg. And they're like, oh, that's great news. Like, your son can stay. He's not going to be recruited to the army. And maybe so. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's bad. And that's the Taoist mindset is very non-reactive. You take everything just as it is, and you just almost flow with like the natural way of like, you don't get overexcited, you don't get overly, like, oh, woe is me, all this. Like, you just take it as it is. Maybe so. So that's something that interested me a lot about Taoist philosophy, is that way of thinking is very just like, it's a little dry, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, of course, you're gonna get emotional. You're gonna react to situations, but that's the way that they try to see the world. The way things happen to them is just, it's like
Maybe so.
Maybe so. Yeah.
Yeah. That's an interesting. I think I've heard that story before, but I'm glad that you kind of retold it, because, that's a interesting way to kind of encapsulate that philosophy.
Yeah, that way of thinking. Yeah.
So going off of that, because you're talking about this maybe so, is there a way in which this philosophy, these teachings, define morality, define right and wrong, define good and bad? I mean, because this story sounds to me like he's going, well, there's not really good or bad. Like, this isn't necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, I'm not going to react one way or
thing.
the other. Yeah.
So, like, is that kind of what I'm hearing then? Is there really no good and evil, right or wrong in this worldview?
There is, because there's karma too.
Okay.
What happens is the direct correlation of what you put out. So, and karma is an interesting concept, because a lot of people think of it like you're being punished if you do something bad, when really karma is just what happens. And so the morality is like, if I am mean to people, then people won't like me. And it's just very direct. Like, karma literally means just what happens. It's just the way things turn out. And so it's like, you not to be an asshole, because people will know you as an asshole. You want to be loving. You want to be good to people. You want to be good to yourself, because then you'll get good back. You'll get good coming back to you.
Yeah. So there's a very common teaching. Actually, I mean, there's there's quite a few similarities to like what you've already said to
Yeah.
what I can think of in Scripture. So like one would be Romans 8 talks about, I think it's 8:28, that says, basically all things are for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose.
Yeah.
So God works all these things out for our good, for the betterment. And so like literally everything that would happen in our life is for those who are part of the covenant people of God, those who've placed their faith in him and are now one with him. Everything is now through the lens of an ultimate good, which is for his glory and for like our sanctification, meaning we're kind of becoming conformed more and more to the image of Christ. So kind of thinking about that idea of like, how do we react to certain situations?
Yeah.
My son breaks his leg. Well, ultimately it's for the good, right? So in biblical Christianity, that's kind of how we would that's how we would tell that story.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you lost your horse. Well, ultimately it's for the good, because this happened, but
It happened.
God is a good God. And
I just trust that it will be for,
and
for the better.
Is. Yeah. And then the other one, like what you're talking about with this idea of karma, there's an idea that's kind of posed in several different passages, and I'm trying to think through the reference, but you'll reap what you sow.
Yeah.
That's a biblical principle. You will reap what you sow.
Translates pretty directly. Like that's
Yeah.
what you put out like you put love out into the world, then that's what you'll get back.
Yeah, you sow seed of the kingdom, you sow seed of the Spirit. That's what you're going to reap the fruit of. You sow seed of the flesh, and you're going to reap the flesh.
Yeah. And if that's what your main focus is,
right.
If that's what you are concerned with.
Yeah. So I mean, there are some similarities, some drawing.
Oh yeah, a lot of direct correlation.
Yeah. So I know that you've talked to me personally about the role of meditation.
Yeah.
How important meditation is in your life.
Yeah, definitely.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I know we talked about, a lot of people I feel like have the idea meditation is trying to clear your mind, trying to like empty the space in your head and get to a point where there's nothing, which is the goal in a sense, but really the best way to think about meditation is to imagine like, so when you're sitting in meditation, obviously if you stop doing things, if you stop doing like, because everything is kind of a distraction,
right?
Conversation, like whatever you're doing, walking around, you're slowing down and you are just observing your thoughts that go through your head. You're observing the way that you feel emotionally, physically. It's all about observation. You're just trying to take a step back from yourself. You're trying to take like, I think I like to think of it like, so you're meditating to try and get the feeling of like control, like what you have control over, because you don't really have control over your thoughts. They just happen to you. Your emotions, they happen to you.
Right.
And so to kind of get this feeling of control over yourself, over your thoughts, and over your emotions, you focus on one of the only things that you really can control is your breath, because your breath happens to you. You're going to keep breathing.
Right.
You're going to try and stop breathing and you'll break. You'll keep breathing, but you can control your breathing in and out. You can focus the breaths in and out. And so that's where you start with meditation is just focusing on that you can control. And when you breathe, you're just trying to observe your thoughts and observe your feelings the same way that you would just like sit and watch a TV show. Like it's something that's happening. You're not getting wrapped up in your thoughts. Like your thought process, it's just going to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
But the more you step away from it and the more you just take an objective, you're not like, there's no good thoughts, there's no bad thoughts. You're just watching them pass by.
Mm-hmm.
The less they're going to attack you, the more it's going to just slow down. You're going to get to your spirit, is that calm quiet where you're just in control, you're comfortable, you're just breathing, you're just here, and you're not trying to fight your thoughts, you're not trying to push against anything, you just kind of go along with that natural flow, and then it's that kind of just calms down by itself. It's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do to slow down your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
When you like quiet, your thoughts are gonna get really invasive. They'll try and like be louder just because there's nothing else going on. So if you're sitting in quiet, your thoughts are gonna get louder and louder. But if you just watch them happen and don't judge them at all, you don't judge yourself for whatever you're thinking, whatever you're feeling, then it just kind of slowly will quiet. And that's that's kind of the basic point for meditating, is just to kind of get that like control. And meditation, you don't have to be sitting. I meditate when I walk to work in the morning.
Okay.
I'm just walking and I'm feeling the ground under my feet. I'm paying attention to my breathing. I'm just taking everything in and not judging my thoughts or anything. I'm just watching everything happen and just like taking a step back mentally.
What's the end goal? Like
goal is,
what's the purpose of this exercise and why it's so
quiet
vital for
anxiety.
You? Okay.
Yeah, because I deal with a lot of anxiety. I have social anxiety. I'll get just stressed.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone will get like stressed about all kinds of things. Life gets crazy. Your head gets really loud, and so it's kind of, I think that I really started meditating out of necessity, because I realized like that's the one thing that really helps me to quiet that anxiety, just to like take a step back and like realize that I'm okay. I'm not in danger, because we still have animal minds, it's, we get into flight or fight mode, and it's being able to step away from that and like realize that I'm not in any kind of danger. I'm great. I'm healthy. I'm breathing. I'm that's kind of the main point for me. I got into meditation more out of necessity because my anxiety was just driving me nuts. And so it's like, okay, how do I quiet this? How do I, really take control? And, if I do get in a really stressful situation, how do I not go berserk? How do I like make sure that I can take a step back, take a breath, and just like handle everything calmly and make sure that I make smart decisions about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so is that where kind of truth meets you in those moments? Is that where, your belief of what God is kind of increases your awareness
it's just
of that?
In that moment,
Yeah.
when I can quiet down, I don't know. I think,
or is it just you? Does that make sense? Like, it's an increase of an awareness of everything, or is it an increased awareness of you?
Awareness of myself in correlation with everything.
Okay.
Yeah. Where I am with everything. And I mean, cause really, I don't know. It's a good question. I think, you are a part of everything that's going on. You're nature. You're a part of nature. You're kind of seeing all of it yourself, the way that your physical body reacts to your natural situation.
Right.
So I don't know. That's a really good question.
When you and I smell good coffee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what that does to the chemicals in your brain, how your taste buds and mouth starts to water even thinking about it. Actually.
Yeah. Like we're grabbing our water bottles right now. Like I wish this was medium roast right here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the goal of meditation is a greater sense of of awareness, your place in kind of in nature and
Yeah.
the universe around you, and then really kind of end goal is a greater sense of just control. Is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm just trying to.
No, no, that's basic sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned something to me the other day I found fascinating. I
Yeah.
think our audience would find fascinating. You listened to a talk that's been very influential for
Ram
you
Dass, yeah.
in meditation.
Yeah. So one thing that helped me, um, I I like listening to like Alan Watts and Ram Dass and some other like, uh, so I'll just get to the story. Ram Dass, this is one of my favorite stories that he told actually, just because it kind of, um, I don't know, it just made sense. It just like put it, because you're saying like when you're meditating, you're not trying to meditate on anything really. Like, it's not particularly a prayer. You're just sitting there in your emotions. But in this one Ram Dass lecture that I was listening to, he was talking about a guru that he had that was teaching meditation. They were like, going through a bunch of philosophies, and when they were on meditation, one of the students asked, "How do we meditate?" Or like, how should I meditate? What do I meditate on?
Yeah.
And this guru told him, meditate like Jesus. And everyone was pretty confused. They're like,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
meditate like Jesus. Like, what could you expand? Like, what does that mean exactly? And he says, I want you to meditate like Jesus on the cross. And I want you to do this because when Jesus was on the cross, he felt no pain. All he felt was pure, unconditional love for everything, for everyone, the people doing this to him. That was the feeling of love was so overwhelming that he felt no pain, and that's the emotion that you want to bring into your meditation is unconditional love, because that's what you can, that's the best thing that you can put out. That's the best thing that you can give the world. Is like, even thinking about like you stub your toe on a desk and you're like, oh, stupid desk. But it's like that desk doesn't deserve your hate. It's just an inanimate object, but it's better for you to just love it anyway, just to love people anyway. Like the best thing you can do when you're trying to meditate is just to try and feel unconditional love for everything, for the world around you, for the air that you're breathing, for the inanimate objects, the floor that you sit on, the people around you, just love, just unconditional love.
And did he elaborate on why? Because this is what I find fascinating about that story, is that not only is Jesus this example of how to meditate, but for meditating on a specific idea of unconditional love. Did he elaborate on why Jesus is the pinnacle of unconditional
why that's
love? Right. Did he make any connection there, or have you made any connection there?
I mean, that's
how Jesus is this example.
That's the example
of unconditional love.
That's what he
find
taught.
That fascinating.
In all of the teaching. I mean, there's nowhere I've ever seen where Jesus didn't have love, where he showed any kind of resentment or any kind of anything but unconditional love. He is that example. When I think of Jesus, I think of unconditional love. That's just kind of where I've programmed my head to go to, is like, when I think of that, that's his example. Yeah.
Well, because for me, obviously for me, the pinnacle of love, and the scriptures talk about this, that greater love has no man than this, than he laid down his life for his friends. And so for me, when I think about the cross and I think about what was going on at the cross, now I'll just say I do disagree a little bit with the guru, because I do believe that Jesus was in
extreme amount of pain.
Yeah, he was in a lot of pain. Now I can see where if he was in a deep meditative state where
it's transcended that physical pain.
Yeah, I can see where maybe that's where he's making that connection. But what I'll say is that act of the cross, right, it is the absolute pinnacle of unconditional love, because we would say, I think this is Romans 5:8, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, the cross is my goodness, it is love. You know,
It's what it represents,
we
that
love
symbol.
because he first loved us.
Yeah.
You know, and so we know what love is, we know what it looks like. He is the example of love because of his sacrifice on the cross.
Yeah.
You know, he paid the ultimate price for me. One of my favorite passages of scriptures is 2 Corinthians 5:21. And it says, "For he made him," Jesus, "who knew no sin, to be sin, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God." And so there's this beautiful, like, glorious exchange is what it was called, of my sin for Jesus's righteousness. And where my sin was transferred was at the moment of the cross. That's what we believe Jesus was doing, was he was paying for the sins of the world in that moment, right? And that God would then rescue sinners like me and give me Christ's perfection, his perfect record given
Perfect
to me.
unconditional love,
I mean, so it's just like, and so like I kind of give this, like, in my terminology, I give that story and that connection of unconditional love a hearty amen.
Oh, cool.
Because I think absolutely. I mean, that's
I thought it was beautiful.
He exudes unconditional love.
Yeah.
You know, so you have a natural curiosity about Jesus. I don't know if you have a natural curiosity about, like, just biblical Christianity, like in your journey of leaving the Latter-day Saint faith to, I know you spent some time as an atheist agnostic, and then moving into Eastern philosophies.
Yeah.
Any time spent, like, looking into the claims of biblical Christianity for you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always kind of float around. I think I have a strong interest in just spirituality in general.
Yeah.
And so I don't really I guess I don't like to identify as any one religion, because I love studying, like, what each thing brings to the table. I love what each thing offers, because there's beautiful truths to each of it. And of course I love, like, Christianity, that, like, the teachings are just, they feel right. Obviously, like, I don't know, it's I think
well, you can't argue with Jesus, right? I mean, like you said, I mean,
it's pretty straightforward.
It's
it's
pretty
like
cool. He did some great things.
Some very straightforward rules that it's like, obviously, like, that
makes sense.
That just makes sense. It feels good.
Yeah.
And I think I like to pull different philosophies and different, like, get into different doctrine, but where am I going? I think I don't like to hold on to anything, really.
Okay.
I say I float around because personally I try not to get a very strong depiction of God in my head. In my opinion, or I guess for me, like, that so God, the more I get an image of what that is to me, of what that, what that means,
Mm-hmm.
the less power it has. Like if in my head I have an idea of what God looks like, it takes away all the power. It almost
Okay.
creates an idol in my head
Mm-hmm.
and creates this like image of something that is unfathomable. And so I don't know, I think that that's where I am with like with a lot of like religions is I don't particularly like to claim any one thing because
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to put my spirituality into boxes.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, one thing that you've mentioned, I want to give you a couple quotes from Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
and you may be familiar with these quotes, you may not be, but one of the things that like I'm intrigued by, like for you, that I see you have a genuine interest in. Number one is a solution for your anxiety, and I'm going to get
Yeah.
to that here in just a little bit, but just the idea of existence, like a pure form of existence and awareness of your existence, is what I hear a lot of, like what you're talking
Yeah.
about, that like meditation helps you with, and some of these philosophies really help you with. And you used the word earlier, surrender,
Yeah.
right? That you just kind of have surrendered to them. These are like two direct quotes from Jesus. One is from John 10:10. He says, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came," so he's delivering his purpose, right, of why he's here, "that they may have life and have it abundantly."
Mm.
For me, when I think about biblical Christianity, I think about what Jesus, if you will, my guru, right? You know,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah. That's
the
awesome.
one that I'm connected to, the one that I'm following,
Yeah.
who's my Savior and Messiah. He said the reason why I came is for Ben to have life,
To have life.
and to experience it
Yeah.
abundantly. Now, there's a lot of people that misuse that verse
Yeah.
to mean like prosperity, like it's
Mm.
all like riches
Money
and
and nice
health, and right.
things. Yeah.
I don't think that's what it is.
No.
I think what Jesus is saying here is that I bring the truest form of reality that
Mm-hmm.
exists.
Yeah.
You connect with me, and I bring true
The
existence,
richness of right now.
the
Of
the
just what.
purest
Yeah.
form of existence. Because if we know who Jesus is, and who God, the God of the Bible, declares himself to be, he's like, I'm the God who made everything.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing that has been made, that has been formed, that was without me.
That is. Yeah.
I did it. And so he knows how it all works. And so Jesus comes as God in human flesh, and he says, I know how this place works, right?
Yeah.
Follow me, surrender to
Mm-hmm.
me, and I'm going to show you the chiefest form of existence that there is. I
Yeah.
mean, that's one of the things. That's one quote. And then here is another quote. So not only life now, right? Chiefest form of existence now. But he says, and this is eternal life. This is from John 17:3. He says, and this is eternal life, that they know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent.
Mm.
And so for us to not only in this life have the most beautiful and purpose-filled existence, Jesus brings that, but not only that, but he brings the life to come.
Yeah.
That is going to be one that's never ending and eternal with God
Mm-hmm.
forever. And he says, what eternal life is, what brings that is that people know you, the one true God, and me whom you have sent.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, for you, you're saying, like, I try to kind of avoid getting a form or truth or that image sharpening up of who God is.
Mm-hmm.
And I would tell you, like, for me, and just following the teachings of biblical Christianity, and really just looking at the Bible, the God of the Bible wants us to know who he is.
Yeah.
I mean, he wants, as best as we can, to
To
get
know him.
to know and understand
Yeah.
who he is, and he reveals
Yeah.
himself in unique and personal ways.
And
so that's why I find
yeah.
like how different that is, right? Like how similar we are in some things,
Yeah.
but like, man, that's vastly different.
In a lot of Buddhist teachings, they say God plays hide and seek. That God, I mean, you asked me earlier if he is everything or is in everything.
Yeah.
And it's almost both, where God is a beggar who needs your help. And that's like, he's playing hide and seek in everything, in all aspects of life. And in Eastern philosophies, they bow. Everyone, you greet someone by bowing because you're paying respect to the God that is in everyone.
Okay. That makes, that enlightens me there a little bit. I didn't know that was the purpose. Yeah. I mean, I knew it was of some homage, that you're paying, but I didn't know exactly why.
Yeah, it's because you're respecting God in the consciousness of everyone around you.
Yeah. So I would say that God is in everything, meaning like he's moving, he's working, he's orchestrating, the Bible says that he holds the world in his hands, that he is in control of all things, which gets me to the anxiety part.
Yeah.
I have suffered with anxiety myself. Okay. Here is, and this is just me, so take it for what it's worth, right? And I feel like this is where the Bible kind of speaks to this idea too. The more and more that I become less aware of myself, and the more and more for me, meditation means I'm filling my mind with the truths of who God is and who he's revealed himself to be in the Bible, my anxiety fades because I'm fading. It's kind of like the idea of, like, you ever been to the Grand Canyon?
Yeah.
You know that feeling when we're just at something just
So
massive.
Yeah, and you feel tiny.
Right. And we feel so insignificant.
Yeah.
Right. In that moment, right? And we're going, who am I? Like, what are these worries, that I hold? But now for me, I'm not going, I'm not connecting with the dirt and the cactus and the sky and the moon at that moment, right? At that moment, I'm connecting with a very personal God who I go, made this. And in fact, what it says is that he spoke everything into existence. That literally when the God of the Bible speaks, creation listens. And so for me, knowing that God as a personal God, yet he's sovereign, he's in control of everything. And then he says, oh, and you know me and I know you, and everything that happens in your life is ultimately for your good. I go, okay, yeah, that's all I need to know. And so I'm telling you, the more and more that I meditate on the truths of the Bible and meditate on the truths of the nature and actually character of God, so sharpening the focus of who God is, I'm telling you, my anxiety fades at that moment. And so that's, again, just find it interesting, for you, it's kind of, there's a difference there, but like, that's where I'm at. Yeah. Yeah. Man, I'm trying to think of other things that we could talk about. Anything that you want to, like, any things that you want to, I've been asking you a lot of questions, I know. I'm not that interesting, so you don't need.
No. Shoot, I don't know, man.
No worries, man. I'm grateful for our conversation today.
Yeah,
I really am. For people that are local, that are looking for a good barber.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Let them know. Let them know where you work. Let them know where they can find you.
Yeah. So the Man Barber, it's a shop on 120 West Center Street. I've been a barber over there 5 years now. Actually, next month is going to be my 5th year mark, which
Happy anniversary coming up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's traditionally what they call the master barber years. When you've been licensed working full time for 5 years, you can claim the title master barber.
So if people are looking for a master barber, then they're gonna find you at would you say it was
the Man Barber?
The Man Barber.
Which we do women's hair as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. That's the name was more created for search engine optimization. It's just haircuts for men. I mean, that's what I specialize in. I went to barbering school to learn shaves and short haircuts, beards, but yeah.
Well, man, I greatly appreciate your friendship.
Yeah.
And your views. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Hey, if you like what we've been talking about today, feel free to share, like, comment below. Any questions you might have for myself or for Isaac, let us know. We can respond to those. But thank you so much for watching the show, and we will see you